in about every 2 weeks or about 9 months, and for that hour-and-a-half session, I think we spent another 5 hours on the phone. So I will be forever indebted to Ed Mackie, and I know he's similarly helped many people in this room. Liza, many of you know, many of her clients are in the room, so you know what an awesome therapist she is, but she's also an adult child. I don't want to tell your story, but she brings so much to the recovery community, and I am honored to call her my friend also. Thank you, Liza.
Yeah, okay. You done? And I think I'll just say a quick introduction about this man standing here next to me. Some of you have heard it, but when I first met this man, to say it nicely, he pissed me off. Anybody else have that experience with Ed Mackie? Yeah. He might do that today to some of you who are just meeting him for the first time. He had the courage to tell me the painful truth that nobody had ever told me before. And that was that it was me. It was not my husband. It was not the kids. It was not the circumstances. That it was me who was the asshole. And at first I thought he was a jerk because of that, and I thought he was the one. Then I learned the nice little saying, when you spot it, you got it. And, you know, that told it all. So, you know, through time and through being humble and learning how to be humble, because I did not know how, I started to actually see him as not just a friend, but as somebody I just love so deeply, I can't even put words to it. And started to see him as that person. And then met Mike and several other of the people that are in here in this room. But this is the man who saved my life and saved my marriage and my therapy practice, because I'm a much better therapist now. So Ed Mackie.
I've done this relationship workshop several times, and so in order not to bore you, I think we're going to have a little bit of different take on it this time. And I think we're going to focus a little bit, or I'm going to focus a little bit, on what's right here on the blackboard. Our instincts and how they impact our relationships with others. I can take it off.
Yeah, do that.
This will be easier. And so what I want to do is focus on a security instinct. You know, earlier this morning, Melissa was talking about in the fourth step, all of these instincts of life that create self and how our character defects are created out of these instincts gone awry. Okay, so if I look at my relationships in terms of my instincts, let's look at a security instinct. You know, the 12 and 12 tells us that our instincts are perfectly right and necessary, but we run into trouble when they exceed their proper function. We evolved a security instinct. It kept our forefathers from being eaten by saber-toothed tigers. Okay, so that security instinct is there for our survival, for our physical survival. Is there any saber-toothed tiger out there trying to eat any of you? No. But you still have a security instinct, don't you? So how does that play out in our lives? You jump in whenever.
Okay.
I get to sit down.
Yeah.
Because I'm an old cripple.
Let me trade this one with you, because I think this is long.
Okay. Now, in order to be secure, I'm a codependent. So I have this security instinct. Now, is there any such thing as security?
No.
No. It's a myth. There ain't any such thing as security. You're all going to die. The world's an inherently dangerous place. People get killed every day. There isn't any such thing as security. But by God, we want it, don't we? And don't we want it so bad that we will go to any length to get it? And not only that, somebody's supposed to do it for me. Okay, so in order to be secure, I'm going to, it says my security instinct has exceeded its proper function, I'm going to glom on to Charles there so that I can be secure. Now, Charles don't know that's what I'm doing, and I ain't going to tell him. Okay, so in order to be secure, I've got to make him be what I want him to be. So he'll make me secure. Right? And so what do? He ain't exactly what I want him to be.
Maybe you can change.
I like women better than I do men, but anybody will do, you know.
Maybe you can change him, Ed.
I've known Chuck for a long time. We were in Monterey together studying Russian at the Army Language School back in the day. He didn't like it. But I will begin to attempt to control his behavior in order for me to feel secure. And then I will become self-seeking, dishonest, fearful, and inconsiderate. Because if I'm searching for security, I'll always be afraid. Because I'll never get it. And I will always run on fear. And the basic thing is that I'm dishonest to begin with because I think there is such a thing as security. And if that instinct exceeds its proper function like it does for us codependents, guess what? We're going to use people up. You can notice how that does. And so we've got this thing in our head that Charles is supposed to be the way I want him to be. And if he isn't, man, do I get scared. And when I get scared, I get more manipulative, more controlling, and more demanding. Or people-pleasing and ingratiate myself. But that's still a ploy, a con. So I've made up this story about how other people are going to make me secure. Okay? And I hold on to that story because I now have a belief. My story has become a belief. I believe it. It's true. And the problem with these kinds of beliefs are they're lies. They're deceits. And so I'm inherently dishonest because I think somebody's going to do something for me. Jerry Woolard stood up here a while ago and said, Ed Mackie said there was nothing out there. And he was right. Remember him saying that? There is nothing out there. Now, if my idea is I'm going to be secure and I'm living in fear because I'm not ever going to get it, okay, what's going to happen? My world is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller because I become risk averse. I am not going to risk because I'm looking for security. And the more I look for security, the more unhappy, the more miserable I get. Okay? Now, what I'm doing with this belief is minimizing risk. If I succeed in minimizing risk to zero, what am I?
You're dead.
I'm dead. I'm a corpse. So is this what your goal is? So the drive to security is a drive for death. But we'll say to ourselves, since I've got this belief that there is such thing as security, I can't do that because of, and then I write another story about what hadn't happened yet. That's also a lie. And then you're back, since you can't do it anymore, you're back into surviving your life. That seems to me it would be a pretty low level at which to live life, wouldn't it? Because I am, as the big book says, clinging to my old ideas. Many of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, but the result was nil, so we let go absolutely. Okay? Now, if I got an old idea like Shannon used to have over there, now that she was saying a while ago that if her children would just behave, if her husband would just do right, everything would be wonderful. Talks about that in the big book in the description of the alcoholic, doesn't it? But have you ever thought about seeing all this security stuff as just a story? It's just a deceit? It's dishonest. You know, if we're going to be happy, joyous, and free, as the big book talks about as our goal, we can't be secure. It isn't possible. Happiness requires great risk. It doesn't require doing the same old crap over and over again because we're scared. We're trying to find another way to do it. So we'll make up other stories and other stories and other stories. And it never works. If only I could have that woman over there, I'd be just fine. If my wife wouldn't be a bitch, I'd be happy.
Good luck with that.
There she is.
Head bitch.
There's my wife. If you'll notice, her T-shirt has head bitch on it.
And that she is.
Or if my daughter would just do right, I'd be happy. Well, she did real good today, didn't she?
Yeah. Woo!
So, it's really, really important to understand what the big book means when it says many of us tried to hold on to our old ideas. Our old ideas are nothing more than the stories we're living into that we could carry it with us forever and ever and ever. You started them when you were kids. Don't do that, you're going to get hurt. I'm scared already. So I can't do that no more. Now when I'm grown, I can't do that because I might get hurt. Well, that's not true, is it? Don't cross the road, you might get run over. Well, now that I'm 72 years old, I can't cross the road because I might get run over. We hold on to these things ad infinitum. Start talking.
All right.
I don't want to do this all by myself.
Well, you were talking about fear before, and that's what I think that is one of the things that all of us are probably busy doing when we're in our active addiction. And Who here has heard of the acronym False Evidence Appearing Real? FEAR? That one really helps for me. But when we're in our fear, what we're doing is think that we're avoiding the thing we're afraid of. And so we're scanning the horizon. We're always scanning our circumstances and our situations, thinking that we're trying to protect ourselves, but actually what we're doing is looking for it. So we're looking for the old situation, crossing the road, and we're staring at it, just waiting for it to be the thing that we know it already is. And as soon as, it might take 10 years to make it that, but eventually it happens, and then you go, I knew it. I was protected. Oh, thank God. So we limit our lives on fear, and our relationships just absolutely suffer because, God help the people in my life who were destined to become the very thing that I was afraid they would be. And that each day, throughout the day, I'd be staring at the circumstances and staring at how they handled me and how they responded. And if my husband came home 10 minutes late for a special dinner, I knew that you didn't really love me. I knew that this wasn't as important to you as it is to me. And so, I doomed those relationships with my fear. And the other thing I wanted to tell y'all about is a really interesting, did you guys remember what a traveling flea circus was? I never knew what it was because they never came around New Jersey, I guess, but where I grew up. But anyway, apparently you can train fleas if you dump a bunch of fleas into a mason jar, and then you watch them jumping up and down like their little flea cells do, and they hit their heads up on the top of the mason jar, and then their little flea heads get hit enough times that they get trained just to jump the slightest bit below the mason jar, and then they're trained. Then you dump them out, and that's all they do. They just jump as high as they were trained to jump for the rest of their lives till they die. And that's what being a crazy codependent person is like in a relationship. We hit our heads enough times, and we go, I'm never doing that again. But this next relationship will be different. And then we do the same thing.
And what the bottom line is in our relationships, because we've got a security instinct that has exceeded its proper function, we want someone to take care of us. And that's no one's job. That's your job, to take care of you. You are the architect of your happiness. You're the architect of your despair. No one else is. We do not want to be responsible for ourselves. We want somebody else to be responsible for us, and we'll go to any length to get it. We will manipulate, lie, whatever we have to get others to take care of ourselves. Because deep down inside, we don't believe we can do it. There's that belief in you. And it's a lie. It is not true. Most of us go through, I'm 72 years old. My wife will not take care of me.
I was waiting for her to speak up.
She's mean. I'm going to have to redouble my efforts to get her to take care of me.
You won't get any brownies. One of the things that Ed and Allison both have taught me through just modeling, not any kind of instruction, is what unconditional love actually is. Because I didn't learn that until then, and it's really loving enough to have that person absolutely accept you as you are and as you are not. And you can say, I don't give a shit to the other person, and it doesn't mean what you used to thought it mean, which was, you're nothing, you're bad, you're wrong, I'm not going to take care of you.
She said an ugly thing. Oh, my God, she doesn't love me anymore. I'm going to have to be better so she'll love me. Like I got some kind of damn control over somebody else's love.
And that's all totally self-centered, because when we look at our spouse and we say, what have you done for me lately? Well, I have to decide if I can stay married to this person because they don't do what I need them to do for me. It's all about me.
They aren't who I want them to be. So I'm going to get rid of that one and get me another.
I'll find the one who will do something for me.
Yeah. So I'm going to get rid of Allison back over there and get me another.
Number 4.
But I know what's out there. There's a lot of pain waiting for me out there. Yes, she does.
Allison will give you all the pain you need.
She doesn't let me get away with anything, and that's real good.
Yeah.
I do not need a woman I can manipulate or control. I'd get too sick doing that, and I like being where I am today. I like having that 25-year chip. And that's for emotional sobriety.
Yeah. I think that
the drinking wasn't a problem. It was just my solution.
So when we're talking about relationships, I think we need to acknowledge that if you're in a relationship and you are in any way focusing on what you can get from it, you have no business being in it.
That's right. The only reason you ought to be in a relationship is what can you contribute to it, not what you can get out of it.
And that's forever. That's not just for a little while until your husband does something for you. It's 100%, zero.
It's 100%. You need to be able to have a 100% zero commitment to your spouse. It ain't a 50-50 job. You're either committed or you're not. And if you're not committed fully to your spouse's well-being, what the hell are you doing there?
Now, that doesn't mean people-pleasing either, and I had to learn this.
People-pleasing is not contributing a damn thing to anybody's well-being. It's self-centered, dishonest, fear-driven, and inconsiderate.
Sometimes the most loving thing that I can do for my husband is say no to him and say, fuck off. I try to say it nicer than that.
Alice is back there giving us thumbs up.
Excuse my language.
The lady I'm married to, Allison, back there at the Potter Bitch, she has no concept of codependency. It's just a mystery to her. She doesn't understand it. As a matter of fact, I tried to explain it to her one day, and she just says, well, Ed, why would anybody do anything that dumb? Here's a whole room full.
Sometimes I sit with my clients when I'm first introducing myself and I say, do you remember that commercial with the hair club for men where the guy held the picture up and he would say, not only am I the president of the company, but I'm also a client? That's me.
But can you see how this creates our beliefs and we get stuck in them? And we get stuck in our old ideas, and all our old ideas are fiction. We made them up.
And so getting specific, like when we look at our spouse and we say, he should be more loving, or we look at our kids and say, they should behave, or our best friend and say, she shouldn't be so mean and so nasty. This is all fiction. Because they just are the way they are, and they are not the way they are not. But our alcoholic or addict brain or codependent brain wants to look at reality and see what it's not that it should be, and not what it actually is.
When I married Allison, she told me one day, She said, when I'm done with a man, I'm done with him. Poof, he no longer exists. I never second-guessed myself, and I never looked back. And I said to myself, oh, shit, that could be me. And I appreciate her. And I love her dearly.
Ed, hold on. Okay. Those crazy shoes you're wearing. Getting all caught up in the ref.
Yeah, Meddling had come unhook me last time we did it.
Oh, yeah.
I was doing a workshop up here.
She got down there right when you were talking about sex, didn't she?
I was doing the sex workshop last time. That was fun. Yeah. She was kneeling down right in front of me and playing with my cord.
Perfect.
Now, are you clear about this thing about the illusion of security?
Yeah.
That this drive to be secure is a drive to annihilate yourself. Of course, there's no such thing as a self to annihilate to start with, but that's beside the point.
Well, no, that's an important point, actually, though, because we talk about self-centeredness and how self-centered we are. But, I think it is an important point to see that there really is no self to be centered around.
Yeah, you just made it up.
That's an idea, too.
That's just an old idea that you've got a self. Yourself is whatever you create it to be. It's not something you have or just popped up there one time. There is no inherent self.
In fact, the idea of self is, the only thing self is a bunch of old ideas collected together. Like I'm from New Jersey, or I'm a woman, or I'm a mother.
And if you let go of all of your old ideas, there ain't no self there, is there? Because all we have is our old ideas, and if we let them all go, there's nothing there.
That's what's scary in recovery. When I walk right up to that line of surrendering it all the old ideas, everything, and the terrifying thing was that you don't know what's on the other side of it. You don't know who you're going to be if you're not who you've always known yourself to be. And I've heard it called the death of self or dying to yourself. You just literally become nothing.
And there's nothing to fear. Because when you get to nothing, you created a possibility for something else to show up. A new self, a new story about you, and it'll still be a fiction.
But it might empower you more.
But some fictions are more useful than others.
That's right. Look, if we're always walking around telling stories, why on earth are we always walking around telling the same stories that leave us scared, that leave us hurt, that leave us victimized, that leave us with all kinds of excuses and reasons not to go for whatever we wanted to go for? We're justified and we're miserable, but we have a good excuse.
Right, and we've got reasons. And every reason that we have, how many of you have reasons?
I got my reasons. Those are my payoffs.
They're all reasonable, aren't they? And reasonable reasons are lies. They're just part of the story you created. Why would anybody want to be free when they can lock themselves into fear? You know how do you make a story about fear? You start off with, what if?
Yeah.
And then you create a story. And then you scare yourself to death and you paralyze yourself into inaction. The 6th chapter of the big book is entitled Into Action. It's not entitled Into Thinking or Into anything else. It's into action. The fear that codependents have will stop them from taking action. It will stop them from doing what they know is the right thing to do for themselves because they're afraid. And then you never, ever truly live your life. You'll only survive it, and then you die. I heard a man say one night, his name was Anurag Gupta, that majority of people will go to their graves with their potential fully intact. That's exactly what will happen to you if you live life at the level of fear instead of living your life at the level of adventure. Life can be a wonderful adventure, but you can't do it and be scared at the same time.
And you can't do it if you're looking for what you can get out of it either.
That's right. There's nothing to get. Because there's nothing out there.
And
It's an illusion.
In my case, it's whenever I'm in that space looking for what I'm going to get out of it, that I rob myself of what I can get.
That's right.
And then I don't get what I wanted. And then I get a good reason or excuse to justify an anger or a resentment. And then I live off of that reason. And then I'm miserable. But I knew it. I just knew it.
Yep.
I get to be right.
Yeah. And I get to prove my point. I was right. And then I can be self-righteous and still scared.
Mm-hmm. And miserable.
And they're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So we're foolish people, aren't we?
There was a moment in a training program I went to that's very similar to a 12-step program. And the exercise we were doing is called the danger exercise.
Yeah.
Life is dangerous. This illusion, this myth that life is dangerous, and you get to completely confront all of your fears that you've ever had your whole life. And it's like hypnosis. You sit there and you close your eyes and they just talk and get you totally in touch with everything you've ever been terrified of or afraid of. And then there was this moment while it was happening that I got it, that there's no such thing as security, that everything I'm scared of hasn't happened. 90% of what I'm afraid of hasn't happened. And then the 10% of the things that have, I couldn't have done anything about. So I'm still going to end up living my life and then dying. And I thought, oh my God. I mean, it was like my head popped open. I was like, I can really actually, the scariest thing of all would be that I would get what I wanted, because I actually know how to be terrified. I could go back to that, no problem. So if I didn't get what I wanted, I can actually live and survive like that. But to get what I want, that's not even a risk. It's like literally, it's scarier that I might get what I want. And I realized I was afraid of actually getting what I wanted. Which is another illusion, because so what? I can always go back to being that miserable, pathetic, codependent woman.
And nobody has to be responsible, because that's what we don't want to be, is responsible. But the problem is that freedom and responsibility are the same thing.
They're two sides of the same coin.
If I'm going to be irresponsible, I will never, ever be free. The big book says that God's plan for us is to be happy, joyous, and free. I cannot do that as long as I'm holding on to my old ideas about security and what they ought to be doing for me and blah, blah, blah. I will never, ever be free. I will be bound up in self-will. Of course, there's no such thing as a self, but I'll be bound. I will be bound by my own narcissism, is what it amounts to.
And limited by the one picture that you see is the right way.
Yeah. And I will be living into my narcissism and be chronically dissatisfied that my life doesn't work.
Louder.
It's them.
We can't hear you.
That it's them.
Them.
There you go.
I do. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Say what you just said again.
I don't remember what
You
I said.
said you will be, oh God, narcissism, you said.
Yeah, we'll be bound
Bound.
by our own narcissism, and you'll never, ever, ever be free out of that. You can't. It's not possible. Freedom and self-centeredness are mutually exclusive.
So if there
Now, do you see what I mean by your first thought in the morning should be, what can I contribute today?
How can I best contribute to my partner's interests today? How can I serve him? Not how can I serve me, or what I can get him to do for me.
And we can't do that.
What can I contribute to him or her?
We can't do that without having God as our source.
Yes. Because without a higher power, you'll always be afraid.
And limited. We will always be limited without the source, the infinite source. See, it doesn't hurt me to give away everything I have to my husband or to my children or the people I love or the people I don't love, because when God is my source, there's an infinite supply continuing to come. So I become like an infinity symbol. I give it out, it comes back at me. I get it from God. I can only keep as much as I am giving away, because I can't really keep it. I just experience it.
You know, how many people stay in bad relationships because they're afraid they're going to lose their stuff?
50% of it.
You know, after my first divorce, I lost all my stuff. You know what happened? More stuff showed up in my life. After my second wife left me, I lost all my stuff. Guess what happened?
Got some more?
Got more stuff. I told Allison not long ago we're going to have to get a divorce. She said, why? I said, we got too much stuff. It's all a bunch of foolishness, isn't it? Stuff shows up. Have y'all ever noticed that, how stuff shows up?
Yep.
How many of you have got too much stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in here's got too much stuff. And if you get rid of all that stuff, you just get more stuff. It won't be the same stuff. It might be better stuff. It might be prettier stuff. It's just stuff. Your life doesn't depend on it.
So if there isn't relationship as a noun, there is relationship as a verb, as an action.
Yeah. Expand.
Okay, so it's not even what we're doing with the people who we're relating with. It's what are we being first in our relationship with people. So being like, how do we be? Like, are we being stubborn and stuck to our old ideas? Are we being self-centered and dishonest? Or are we being in service to and loving? And whatever it is that we're being is like what the actions we're doing are going to come out of. And so if there isn't this thing called a relationship between my husband and me, and there really isn't, there is no such thing as a relationship, but there is the way that we relate with each other. And if he shows up in my space one evening as irritable and angry and impatient and frustrated, then how I be with him is going to determine the outcome of that evening. It's not that his behavior is going to determine the outcome of that evening. It's how I can be with the way he is, or if I can't. And if I can't be with it, then screaming and yelling at him would not serve him or me. What it would do, that would destroy it. So if I can't be with him, then the most loving thing I could possibly do for him in that moment is to say, I need to go and take care of me because I can't be of service to you right now. You need love and care and tender, and all I can do is scream at you, and that's not fair to you, so I'm not going to do that. And so I've had to do that a few times.
If I'm stuck in the myth of security and I will be afraid, can I be loving and afraid at the same time?
No.
No, I can't. They're mutually exclusive. If I don't have any fear, can I be loving? Yes, I can.
Yes. Same thing with resentment.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be resentful and loving at the same time.
No.
And resentment's 100% or nothing, isn't it?
Yep.
You can't be a little bit resentful about somebody or something. You either are resentful or you're not.
Bye, Allison.
The head bitch is leaving the building.
Hey,
That's what I said.
I can say anything I want to now. She's gone.
Hear about it, don't worry.
That is my wife.
Oh,
Really.
I know I've told this story before, but there are some new people that might not have heard it. About you and Allison?
Yeah.
When I was in the midst of my crazy breakdown of the marriage, before I decided that I could actually stay with the husband I was married to, I was seeing Ed for therapy, and I'd show up at his house one day, and I could actually hear screaming coming from the inside of the house. And I'm thinking, somebody's going crazy. And so I entered quietly and looked over my little adult child self that I am, terrified of the screaming and yelling. And it's Allison. And she is in Ed's face, and she is tearing him a new one. And then all my ideas about my therapist went out the window, and I was like, oh no, he's in an abusive relationship. Oh no, he can't save me from my bad relationship. And, I'm going to have to leave. I better try to sneak out of here. And in the middle of it, Allison's like, hello, Liza, and scared the crap out of me. And, Ed just stood there, calm, peaceful. Both his legs were planted firmly on the ground. He was holding out his hand to touch her hand every so often. He was breathing normally. I had never seen anything like this. My family sure didn't fight like that. So when she was done, Ed said, "Are you finished?" He took her hand and he looked into her eyes lovingly. It wasn't anything like it would have ever been in my house. It was, "Darling, are you finished?" And she said, "No, I'm not finished. I have one more thing I forgot to say." And she kept on going. And when she finally wound down very soon after, he took her hands again and he said, "Are you okay now?" And she said, "Yes, I'm okay." And went running out. "Goodbye, Liza." And then I sat down. I was like, maybe we shouldn't do this now, Ed. It seems like maybe that was, you're not really in a space to be able to do therapy, I'm just trying to leave. And Ed's like, why on earth would I not be ready to do therapy? Sit down. And, I said, well, Ed, I think that maybe you should have set some boundaries there, shouldn't you have? She was screaming in your face and she was using cuss words. She was calling you names and stuff. And she was really mean. And that's not an appropriate thing for a wife to do. And he said, well, yes, of course. What did you say to me? You said, I created the space.
I said, yeah, I created the space for that to show up. If the bitch from hell shows up in my life, I'm the one who created the space for that to show up. Let me tell you what happened an hour ago that you didn't see.
Yeah, and then he told the story.
My asshole really showed up, and I was a smart ass to her. So yeah. This is a reaction to me for which I needed to make amends to my wife and to be there for her, because in my sane moments I'm 100% committed to serving her.
And then about my head practically fell off my neck. I could not imagine that he owed her an apology after that. And so then he went on to explain the assholey way he had acted with her. And that does explain why she was reacting that way. But I still didn't quite get it, how it would be okay for her to treat you that way. And you said, Liza, I'm 100% responsible for whatever shows up in my life. And if my wife is screaming in my face, I have created that space, and I have the responsibility not to continue to piss her off. I can be of service to her by allowing her simply to express what she needs to express and just be with it. Just be okay with it exactly the way it is. And he knew that it wasn't about him. It was what he created, but he was willing to be responsible for that. And he also said, Allison knows that she's one of the luckiest. Oh, this was the next week when I came back. Right, I came in and
you told Allison.
I told Allison. I said, "You're a lucky woman." I said, "If my husband could do that for me, we might actually have a marriage." And then through the therapy and working the steps with a sponsor, I actually really learned that it was I who had to learn how to be that for my husband.
But Allison also says, "Yes, I know I am," when you told her she was a lucky woman.
And she said, no, "I know no other man who could do for me what he does."
Mm-hmm.
But I could have been jumped into being insecure, couldn't I?
Or justify and
Or
explain.
justifying and say, what the hell's the matter with you, bitch? How dare you come in here and talk to me that way?
Mm-hmm. Or defend yourself and your
Or defending
behavior.
myself or something else. Would that have served her?
No. Or
No.
you.
Or me. But I wasn't insecure. I wasn't in fear. I was there for her. Do you people see the difference?
Yeah. I agree. It would be called The Geezer and the Bitch. The Geezer and the Bitch's Guide to Happy Marriage.
We've been married for 21 years. We've never had a fight. I won't argue with her. It will not produce anything good for her.
Yeah.
And if I'm acting in her best interest, I won't argue with her.
Yeah, I had to learn how to not argue, and that's, a codependent doesn't know how to do that. But, you know, I think there was a day when you looked at me and you said, well, Liza, if you're arguing with your husband, because I was complaining, why doesn't he stop arguing with me? He says, if you're arguing with him, then you must have a commitment to argue with him. He said, turn around your commitment. Have a commitment not to argue with him.
I'm mean. As like that, you told this one lady to come see me, and she said, he's mean.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she came running back.
He was insecure real fast.
Yeah, we're all going to die anyway.
Yep. Now, huh?
No.
Most of the people who know me know that I'm not very mean. I'm just...
Truthful.
I did tell you to shut up one day.
Oh, yeah, he did. He told me in the middle of a therapy session, he said, shut up. Stop talking. And therapist me, I said, hey, what? You don't tell a client shut up in the middle of something that's very important and has to be said. No, he said, shut up. Stop talking. Because as long as you act like a brat, your husband is going to treat you like a child. And you are acting like a child right now. And I got quiet because he was right.
Like I said, I'm a recovering therapist. I don't do it like that anymore. Is everybody okay with what we've talked about today?
Do you guys have any questions?
Does it make sense? Anybody got any questions?
Yeah.
I didn't say what can I do for. I said how can I contribute.
The question was when you said when you wake up in the morning and ask yourself first thing, what can I do for this relationship? Isn't that just being codependent?
Yeah, I heard her question, but what I said was my thing is how can I contribute to her well-being? Being codependent does not contribute to her well-being in any way. Because that is not a loving thing to do, because that sticks me back in my security survival mode.
And I had the same question, and when we were working on my marriage, it was I didn't understand how to just be willing to do something for my husband without wanting to do it. That was a really crucial distinction that I got from working with Ed, that sometimes love is putting aside what I want and contributing something I'm willing to contribute to my husband. And if I'm not willing to contribute it, then I will end up with a resentment. So I can't do it unless I'm willing to do it. And that means I have choice and I'm choosing it, even if I don't want to do it.
You can't contribute to somebody by enabling them. Okay? You can't contribute to somebody by people pleasing them. You know, setting boundaries, this is something y'all get taught in meetings. The only time you need to set a boundary is to serve someone else. That's what a boundary is there for, is to serve someone else.
And it's not setting the boundary so that they will do something or not do something. It's so that I know what I'm going to do or not do.
Mm-hmm. And I can't do that out of my security instinct. That will not make a contribution.
And we can't do it without letting go of our resentment and our fear. So really the key to letting go of your resentment and fear is doing a proper, thorough, fearless moral inventory and getting that stuff out of the way of the relationship. I am doomed in my relationship if I am doing anything or not doing something out of my fear and my resentment.
Anybody else have anything? We're out of time, so thank you very much for being here today.